Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We love having you here, and it's our mission to bring you all the latest and greatest tips, skills, and know-how to make you the best that you can be. We know that you have it in you, and we're going to show you how. Now, let's get started.
Good to have you on the show. This is Omobola Stephen, the host of Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. On the show, we focus on personal development and self-improvement, having realized the importance of personal development and self-improvement in order for us to begin to move from where we are to where we need to be. Now, all of the potentials that lie within us can only come to the fore and be truly harnessed when we personally develop them and also self-improve ourselves in the process. Now, personal development and self-improvement is a lifelong process we must embrace in life in order for us to really move from where we are to where we need to be. It's what the efforts at the end of the day, if we don't give up. This is the mission and the focus of Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Today, I'll also be talking about personal development, which is the core topic of the podcast. And I have Jonathan Niziol, who is a successful international model, a fitness role model. He's also a real estate investor and is a mental health advocate. So welcome to the show with me, Jonathan Niziol.
Thank you very much. It's very great to be here and pleasure to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me on the show, Jonathan. As you rightly said, and also as researchers confirmed, within US alone, we have 1 or 2 to 10 men who suffer from some form of mental health condition. So we'll be talking more about mental health issues, masculinity, which is a very important topic for us at such a dynamic time as this. So what do you think give rise to this important topic of discussion, talking about mental health condition that some of our men face at this time?
I think it's really important because for the longest time, the male role was to, in past times and as far as like, traditional gender roles, it's to go out there, put your head down, provide, just do your job, just focus, do your job, and just push through. And, that has, it hasn't worked. And I think now as generations are starting to talk about mental health more, we're seeing that, like you said, men struggle with and deal with mental health issues just the same as women do. And it's a societal thing. And it's, for the longest time, when I started dealing with my mental health issues, I didn't want to talk about it because it wasn't manly. I thought I was being a wimp. I thought, that's not what men do. You just keep it bottled up inside and just put on a brave face and go for it and go through it. But I think it's extremely important to talk about and to lower that veil and that stigma of it not being a manly thing, and to have these conversations and to realize that, a lot of us are dealing with stuff, and it's doesn't have to do with what gender you are or anything. It's just, we need to drop that stigma and really start to talk about it, because like you said, it is an issue.
All right, you rightly said that it wasn't manly enough to share what's going on in the life of you or any other man in the society. I know it's very challenging for the men out there. Now we have the men who suffer behind the scenes due to existing prevalent male stigma, which has shown that's so obvious. But really, looking at also your own personal story and your journey, how can this be solved? Because we know that we have crises that are facing the masculine gender in this century.
Yeah, I think it took me a long time to really come to terms with my traumas and my issues, for like, just to really face them and be able to like actually take action and to work on them instead of distracting myself. And I've been diagnosed with anxiety and depression and those kinds of things for 20 years. And excuse me, in the beginning, I thought was just a lot easier to self-medicate. And I took some medication, but instead of doing the work and learning the tools and how to like manage and deal with it, I thought, I could just self-medicate, and did that for a number of years with alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. And finally realized that it wasn't doing me any good. It wasn't getting me any farther. It was really holding back in life. And then I needed to do something very different. And that's when I decided to go to therapy and decided to drop the stigma of therapies for wimps. I'm not going to sit there and have somebody judge me, all those things. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I mean, all those, silly things that we tell ourselves, because it was 15 years of doing the same thing and getting the same result, and finding myself stuck in a loop, and enough was enough. I just really had to just face it head on and learn how to live with, and not only survive, but thrive with it, and learn the tools on how to manage and understand what's going on with mental health, and that it doesn't make you weak, and it doesn't make you a loser, and it doesn't make you less manly, and all those things that we tell ourselves, and it is okay to talk about. So yeah, that's what I had to do for me personally. And that's been it's an ongoing journey always, obviously, but that's been a journey for at least the better part of 20 years.
All right, Johnson, you decide that you're going to go to therapy. That's a brilliant idea on your part. But now, how about some folks out there, some men out there like you, who never occurred to them to go to therapy? What other options do they have for recovery?
Talk. I mean, you really need to talk to somebody. You need to get it out. I mean, we do these things in our head where we will spin the narrative and really just, do a lot more negative, and keep telling ourselves like, oh, you're a loser, you're failing, you're doing this. And even if it's just starting with talking to a friend or talking to somebody and talking about what you're comfortable with, but just starting to let things out. I mean, I think talking about it is the first step towards growth. I think vulnerability isn't weakness, as I thought for the longest time. I think vulnerability is power. And I think opening up and being vulnerable and talking about these things, then you'll realize that you're not the only one, and you're not the only person that deals with this stuff. And it will help unload that weight, that burden that you carry around of that, all that stuff that you've just been boxed up and holding on to for the longest time. I really think it's important. I know that going to a therapist is can be expensive, and it's not available to everybody. And I totally understand and respect that. But if you can find any way to talk to somebody and just to start talking about it is the most important first step.
Thanks, Jonathan, for sharing that thought. I'd like us to talk about men's global issues. So, Jonathan, what really do men struggle with?
What do you mean? But specifically, what kind of issues? What do you mean?
Yes, I like us to talk about the men's global issues that they're
Oh,
facing, yes, in the society. What do you think are the main issues men are facing in the society?
well, I think it's just like I said before. I think it's that idea that we're supposed to just shut up and work and just, not talk about emotions, not talk about feelings, not talk about anything like that. I think it's that old mentality of, yeah, we don't do that. Just push through and, go through. I think it's a global thing. I think that's an absolute thing that, you just push it down and don't worry about it, and then just go ahead while it eats you up inside. And you just, I think it comes out in other ways, whether it's, I mean, being angry or being depressed or, reaching for alcohol or drugs or whatever way that you find to cope with it. I mean, I think that's that mentality that we've had for the longest time, that like that male mentality. And I consider myself a masculine man, but I'm also in touch with my emotional side, and I have no problem talking about it and talking about the things that I've done and the things that I've been through, because it doesn't make me any less of a man. It makes me human. So I think that's the biggest thing is that stigma of gotta be a man, gotta be a man. We gotta, this is what men do. We gotta be a man. Like it doesn't make you any less of a man. Or I think really being in touch with your emotional side and being able to admit that you need help or you have problems. I think that's a really big a really manly thing to do. And we need to start switching over that stigma where it's a feminine thing to do. It's a masculine. It's not. It's a human thing to do. And to really switch that over and start talking about and really having these conversations.
Right now, you confronted your fears in all of this, and that was how you were able to break through. Right now, for those who can't confront their fears, uh, and in the process of confronting your fears, I know that there will be challenges that came up during those times. What are some of the challenges that you experienced that you like to share with my audience, especially those who are going through such a kind of situation that you've been through?
I mean, there's so many, right? Like with dealing with anxiety and depression and stuff like that, like especially anxiety, so many things become a fear, like an irrational fear. I mean, anxiety is an irrational fear. We have a fight or flight system that is built into us as humans for survival, and it's necessary when we're being, chased by a tiger or we see a rattlesnake or something. Like it's an important, mechanism to keep us alive. But anxiety tells us that there's danger when there is no danger. So I mean, I don't even know. There are just so many things that I've gone through, and I found that I would just retreat myself to my comfort zone. I'd really just pull back and I would be like, it's nice and cozy in here and it's nice and comfortable in here. And I just live in this little box where I don't go too far out and that kind of stuff. But I think stepping outside of your comfort zone, I think life happens outside of your comfort zone. I've heard that and I live my life by that. And whenever something makes me feel anxious, and not in a way like I said, I'm not going to go pick up a rattlesnake because that's just dangerous to me. But if doing something like, going on a TV show or doing a runway show or, speaking in front of a large group, whatever, things that are beneficial to me and my growth, if it makes me feel a little bit anxious, it's like, oh, I have to go do that because I'm not going to let that stop me from helping advance myself. I'm not going to let that stop me and create boundaries for myself. I'm going to go and do that because that's the good anxiety. Tell me that I'm going in the right direction. You know what I mean? And it's like I said, I'm not going to go outside and wrestle an alligator. Like that's just not something I'm going to do. But yeah, I think it's important to challenge ourselves and to not put up those barriers because before you know it, you're stuck in a box. And when I was at my worst, I was literally living my life in a box where I knew where everything was and I'd only go this far and I'd do this and I would do that because everything was safe and comfortable, and everything outside of here that was scary, and that was like, oh no, I can't. Then I had to slowly like start to spread out and start to break down those barriers and start to, grow and learn and test myself. And you learn a lot about yourself. Your self-confidence will grow immensely as you start to challenge yourself and to push yourself outside of those that comfort zone, and put yourself in situations that are beneficial for you and your growth, but are also safe, like whatever that definition is. I mean, some people like to go wrestle alligators. I mean, that's good for them. Like, go ahead, you can have it. But yeah, I think it's important to, there's so many things that I've gone through with regards to anxiety, but that's my mentality now with regards to it is, if it's a good anxiety, then it means I'm going in the right direction and I have to go and conquer it. I have to go and like, yeah, I need to go do that because it's making me feel a certain way, but in a good way. Like that's the good anxiety.
Right. Let's get personal a bit here. Talking about men and talking about handling their emotions. I'm talking about these negative emotions and handling the relationships. Something that is really peculiar to most men in the society because we all have gone to one form of traumatic situations or the other. It also happened to the women folks. So tell me, what was your own experience like, handling, having to go through this situation and also having to manage a successful relationship? How did it go?
I mean, there's so many, like I've been through so many things that I've had to deal with and had to, learn how to manage and go get through. And, being an alcoholic, being a drug addict, the good things too, like, traveling internationally for modeling, that that's really stepping outside your comfort zone. My first trip was to Cape Town, South Africa for 6 months. And I was like, okay, let's go do it. Like, this is awesome. But also like there've been a number of negative things as well. Like we talked about mental health and learning how to manage and push through that and to learn how to thrive and survive but overcoming my addictions were big for me, like overcoming my alcoholism, overcoming my drug addictions, and going at it with the fighting spirit of somebody who's not going to let this beat me. as somebody who's, okay, I've gotten in this situation, and it's because of my past traumas and things that, I'm trying my best to deal with, but I'm not dealing with them in the right way. So it's time to change the narrative, because, after 15 years of just masking and distracting myself with, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, it was time to try something different, like I said. And for me, that was going to therapy. But pushing through alcoholism, which I've been sober from alcohol for 16 years, and sober from drugs for the last 7 years. And yeah, there have been number of things. And I think that's what is wonderful about life, is the ups and downs of life. It's on a daily basis. And, when you're, excuse me, I spent so much time in my life being under the influence, because it was a comfort. That was a comfort zone. Being high, being drunk, being whatever, just distracting myself was very, very comfortable. But when you're in that zone, the highs don't feel that high, and the lows don't feel that low. You just kind of feel numbed out. And now, and I don't think everybody should be sober. I'm not here preaching, sobriety, whatever. This is just my story. But I now really relish and enjoy the highs that I feel of life, and now I feel the lows. The highs feel that much higher when you deal with the lows. And for me, that's a big, I really relish that and enjoy that. And we are all going through that. And you don't know who's going through what or who's been through what. So it's important to treat people with grace and understand that people, are going through stuff, and to not judge a book by its cover, or to not, write somebody off before you take a minute to try to get to know them and, know what they're about. So I think that's important thing. But yeah, there have been a number of so many things that I've been through in my last while, but it's that persistence. I mean, I live my life by persistence, and nothing can, nothing will beat persistence, and that, keep going attitude. And yeah, like, we're going to make mistakes along the way. Has there ever been a perfect person that's walked the earth? Nope. Is there ever going to be? Nope. So when we make mistakes, why do we go into or inwards and tell ourselves, man, you are such a loser. You're a failure. You're doing this, you're doing that, instead of being like, I'm human. I'm human. Oops, I made a mistake. Okay. It was a big mistake. Sure, whatever. But that's still like, you can still turn the corner, and every day is a new day. And I think it's, just the persistence attitude is a really big mindset to have.
Thanks for sharing once again, Jonathan Niziol. Do you have any exciting news to share with my audience? Perhaps you have a project in the pipeline you think is going to be very beneficial to my audience in the long run. You can share.
I do. I've got a few things coming up. I'm going to be starting my own podcast in the next 4 months. Thank you. And when I do, I'm hoping I can call on you to be a guest, and maybe we can reverse the roles. I can ask you some questions. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to be doing more speaking engagements and getting out and doing that kind of stuff. I'm very active on Instagram, getting better with TikTok, Facebook. All those I'm sure you'll put those in the show notes. You can find me there. I love having conversations with people, and I love learning from people. I'm always trying to learn. And I love, when I come on shows like this and meet people like yourself, the audience, and then the people who reach out afterwards, and I can learn from, and we can share ideas and really grow together, and just really help one another. So yeah, I've got a bunch of things in the pipeline, and I would say just follow along to see what's coming next, because it's gonna be big.
Absolutely. It's sure going to be big. Thanks for sharing that with my audience, Jonathan. I wish you the best of luck in these projects and also in subsequent ones that you embark upon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you
All
for
right. Would you
having me.
like to share any parting word to my audience?
I think the last thing I would share, and this is to, men or women or whatever it is I heard recently, it's been a few months now, but I heard the actor Tom Hanks talking about like what he would tell his younger self. And he said, this too shall pass. And, whether it's something really good or whether it's something really bad or whether it's something, just know that this too shall pass. Our lives just keep moving forward. And, just because you're having a bad day today doesn't mean it's going to be a bad day. Or I had a bad 10, 15 years. Doesn't mean it's going to be it doesn't define who I am like for the rest of my life. But I think knowing that and really embracing that idea and mentality that, this too shall pass, and we have to just keep pushing along and keep going, and to relish the good and to accept the bad and to feel our feelings and to, try and learn from them and not just sweep them under the rug like they didn't happen. Like, no, they're learning experiences, but just know that this too shall pass, and we can always just keep moving forward and stay in the present. That's the most important thing. It's a hard thing to do. It's easier said than done. I'm working on it every day of my life, but if we can really stay in the present and just know that this too shall pass.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that motivation and inspiration with my audience.
Thank
Jonathan, did you forget to share your website? Because I realized you shared your social media handles.
Yes, so my website is my name, Jonathan Niziol, JONATHANNIZIOL, official.com. So I can be found there, and then it has a link to all my social medias and all that kind of stuff, and people can email me directly. And yeah, you can find some of the other podcasts I've done, some articles and some stuff about me. And like I said, I'm just happy to, and I love connecting with other people from all walks of life. So yeah, you can find me there.
Great to have you once again, Jonathan Niziol, successful international model of fitness, and so a fitness role model, real estate investor, and also a mental health advocate. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with my audience, especially talking about mental health, focusing on the main folks and how we can really get it better and also come out of our ruts. It's been a worthwhile time. I'm sharing this time with you. I wish you best of luck once again. If you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of the show, you can catch up on any cross-promotional platforms or any podcast distribution platforms you bump into online. And you'll have a great time listening to expert and professionals share their thoughts and insights on disruptive mindset conversations, yet constructive in nature, to topics on the personal development and self-improvement. I always need you to stay safe. I talk to you soon.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review.